When it comes to oil and gas, there's always a new story in the headlines.
Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
Our country needs to pass permitting reform to accelerate the development of clean energy.
And the debates never stop.
According to the EPA, scientific evidence shows that fracking can lead to chemicals and other dangerous substances seeping into drinking water under some circumstances.
But before the Positive Energy campaign can unpack the controversies, it's important to understand how the industry works. So think of this video as your ultimate crash course. The energy sector is immense, but you can break down oil and gas into 5 parts. Let's start at the beginning. Exploration and discovery. Finding oil and gas isn't like stumbling upon a treasure chest. It's more like solving a complex puzzle. Geologists and geophysicists use seismic surveys. Think sound waves bouncing through the earth to pinpoint potential underground reserves. These surveys can cover huge areas, sometimes hundreds of square miles, with teams working in remote locations to collect data. Once they've identified a promising area, remember the landmen we talked about in our last video? Well, this is where they come in. The landman secures the mineral rights and gets access to the area, then exploratory drilling begins. The hunt is for hydrocarbons. If found, that's a win, and the site can move forward with a drilling plan. Then it's time for collection. This involves drilling wells to extract the oil and gas, but it's not as simple as turning on a faucet. The process involves precision, careful planning, and a lot of engineering expertise. There are 2 categories of drilling. Onshore, which takes place on land, often in remote areas or even urban settings, and offshore, which happens out at sea, sometimes miles from shore in water that's over 10,000 feet deep. Historically, wells were drilled into the ground vertically, but now wells can be drilled horizontally and from a single site. To maximize the amount of hydrocarbons extracted from the reservoir, hydraulic fracturing, aka fracking, may be used. This involves pumping fluids at high pressure to create small cracks in rock formations, freeing the oil and gas trapped inside. But let's be honest, fracking is an incredibly hot topic, so we're going to table it for now and dive deeper at another time. Now, let's talk about how it's moved. Once the oil and gas is extracted, it needs to get to refineries or processing facilities. Pipelines are the go-to method for moving large quantities over long distances. Natural gas is gathered from a network of smaller pipes called gathering systems, and then delivered in larger pipelines to processing facilities. In the US alone, there are over 2 million miles of pipelines. That's enough to wrap around the Earth more than 100 times. But pipelines aren't the only option. Tankers, trucks, and trains also play a major role. Next up, refining and processing. Imagine a giant science experiment that separates crude oil into useful products like gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and even plastics. This happens through a process called distillation, where the oil is heated, turned into vapors, and then cooled into different components based on boiling points. Natural gas, on the other hand, is processed to remove impurities like water, carbon dioxide, and sulfur. It's then transformed into liquefied natural gas for transport or sent straight to pipelines. And that brings us to the last step, distribution. Millions of barrels of oil and trillions of cubic feet of natural gas reach consumers every day. From the gas station to your driveway, this is how the industry keeps the world moving, literally. Now that you have a better understanding of oil and gas, you might still be asking, how critical are they to our lives? Can we really do without them? And what's the truth about clean energy? Follow the Positive Energy campaign as we answer these questions and break down the stories making headlines. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for more insights from the Positive Energy campaign. Let's keep the conversation going.